Hello, my name is George Simonoff. I have another video I'd like to post around craft skills development strategy, and this one is around basic skills development. My previous video I talked about the phase one activities and some of those things that are intertwined together. This one I thought was worth a presentation of its own. So it's around the basic skills development in that first level of the pyramid. Here's a pyramid that you saw in the other video, and in that stage one or that phase one daily maintenance activities, you can see that craft skills enhancement, those basic craft skills, that's what we're going to be talking about here. So, each one of these blocks in the green, they're all intertwined together. In my last video, I talked about the work process itself, preventative maintenance activities, and then a lot of the storeroom materials management type activities that helped us be successful. This one also is a key piece and one that really requires the right amount of attention, right? And you'll see hopefully why as we go through this. Okay. So really the goals of the basic craft skill enhancement is to reduce the overall defect rate. And this is the defect rate out on the floor, whether there's stops or failures, repairs, adjustments. There's going to be ones that eat your lunch more than the other, right? Provide skills to support other phase one activities as it ties in with the rest of it. Not only around basic craft skills, but starting to build some documentation skills and a few things that are critical. And then also it really increases the engagement of your teams. If you think about some places, if you're really on fire and it's a very reactive place, folks come to work, they work very hard, it's frustrating, it's a lot of breakdowns or stop, and that's tough to deal with. Some places it's not necessarily as much, but a great place to put some ownership of an impact it can have on the floor in the hands of the folks on the floor, and really start to measure that and build some rewards off of that as well. So it's good for engagement just the same, and should be part of the goals here as we continue forward. High level approach, like how do you really go about this? The way that I like to do it, and I think that works the best, is really around identifying the failure mode themes related to craft skills or methods, right? So you're really looking for the things that are defects that come from how they go and splice a belt, install a bearing, tighten bolts down, some of the easy ones. And there's lots of different ways that you can kind of pull that data out to understand what those themes of failure are, right? Depending on what level of data measurement you're at, right? So if you're using work orders and you have the failure modes built in, easy to pull from that, right? And kind of understand what your themes of failure are. But most of the time, if you got that, you probably have done this a long time ago. I've worked in places where we used spreadsheets, and there would be a DIN ticket that we would record on spreadsheets when we had clerks available to do that. And then we started to search for keywords when we first started to use this information, because in most cases it was being collected and fairly well, but wasn't really being utilized as to how to understand how to move the operation. And then as we saw value in it, then we added drop-down boxes for specific themes that the mechanics helped us build, and that helped us really hone in on the types of failures we were seeing on the floor. Or sometimes it's just a gut. If you're sitting and looking at your downtime data and you see the same thing pop up over and over again, or at an alarming rate, that might be things that you put on the list to focus on as well. A lot of places that I've worked at, initially, what it looks like the themes for failure are, there's a significant portion of them. You can probably categorize more than half of those themes in just 3 or 4 types of failures related to some craft skill that's easy to go train on and fix, right? So it really helps you focus on what you need to go after. And sometimes a good gut feel, or, for me, my memory's short enough that if I can remember the last time it happened and it was a significant event, it was a major outage, then it really sparked some reason to go ahead and get that fixed, right? You train on those themes, and there's lots of different ways, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But you train on those themes, and there's lots of different great ways to go do it. Sustain with documentation. So some of the education you give around building job aids or one-point lessons really helps you proliferate the message and sustain that practice or make it more standard work for how you do it, right? And it could be as simple as just jotting down a couple bullet points, as much as a quick video of somebody doing it. as much as like a 1 point lesson, with a photo and a few words. And then make sure that you're including the production folks, whether it's sooner or later. But if they're touching or moving the equipment, some of these failure mode themes may relate to them, such as photo eye adjustment or maybe basic lubrication. Who knows, right? So it just depends on the environment that you're at, how you utilize that. But sooner or later, before you get out of this, you should start including them. This really builds a foundation for all kinds of other great things. So methods of training, there's a few ways here that I listed that are my favorites. Classroom based, I think it could be classroom with an instructor you bring in, or maybe you got like somebody from engineering, or you got some way that you can bring a vendor in or pay a vendor to come in and give some training on whether it's lubrication or how to tension chains or how to install V-belts. There's all kinds of good ones. Peer-led, where you may stand around the shop table and say, okay, guys, show me how you tape up these motor leads, right? If shorts at the motor is one of the issues that you got to deal with, one of the themes you want to fix. And it's good to do these things even without identifying a theme, just to get everybody leveled on how each one of you do. So you get one guy to do it to the next guy, and then you guys have some open dialogue around what they liked, what they didn't like, and you'll bubble up to a best practice out of it, right? Even as far as, I've done one time is just, put a small set of terminal blocks. Show me how you guys land these wires on these terminal blocks, especially when you have them come in loose, right? Making sure that they get to tug on them, and let everybody try it around the table, or use a multimeter or a mega or whatever it may be. Vendor lunch and learns are a great way to get some very, either free or very inexpensive training. The guys like it. Most of the time the vendors will bring something. We've had like a lot of great companies like Timken, Gates, had a lot of them come in and just sit down with us and, show us, like, understand how a bearing's put together, if it's bearing installation, understanding what's important about a bearing, how it really works, understanding those sort of things, or lubrication, and sometimes they give some things out. So it's usually a lot of fun and still value added. And then the development of the documentation, right? That's also a method of learning. So, if you get some folks trained that might be good on the computer, or they work with somebody who's got the clerical skills to develop these documents, now they got something that they haven't done before they own, and now it makes it easy for that knowledge to be shared elsewhere through the facility, right? Posted up, talked about in the communication boards, audited against, all sorts of things that you can do with it. To see how, or to spread that out. And those documentation skills only feed into these other pieces that you're working on right now as well in that phase one, right? So just a little bit around that. Like I said, I really like the mix of all these. They're inexpensively and quickly, and it's okay to double up or triple up, right? So maybe you have a class around lubrication, and then you do a vendor lunch and learn about oil analysis or whatever it may be, right? And you kind of come back with a different vendor on lubrication. You sometimes say something different, or they will say something different, and then the guys get a different chance to hear it with a different flavor, maybe understand it, and it all just builds on their knowledge, right? Especially if they're not costing you anything. It's a nice way to keep investing in your folks. The one thing that I don't have a slide on that's worthwhile to talk about is how you measure this, right? So in my opinion, we should be spending at least 3% of our total man hours investing in our folks, right? Training them, education, development, some way like that, right? So in a 40-hour week, you're not talking about a lot of time, but it could be like a day a month, or maybe it's an hour a week, or whatever it may be that you break it up in a way that you're at least setting your future up by training these folks and getting rid of these pesky and troublesome, simple failure modes out on the floor. Really frees up time so that you can start focusing on other things, bigger and better things, establishing some processes and that stuff, right? So if you have any questions, my email is on here. You can reach out and contact me. I appreciate you listening to me speak, and hopefully you enjoy it. And any feedback you'd like to give is very appreciated. Thank you.